fan of busy work. I'm not a fan of documentation for documentation's sake. The same time, I find that as I've gotten older and I've gone through more problems, the more I understand how, in certain times, documentation, writing stuff down is very important. Even if it's an exercise, so that you know it's important. Um, and so I bring that up because in my recent article on data readiness, the second suggestion I made in the first question uh, to things to do to help you get to data readiness was to create a data charter. And I feel fairly confident that most companies don't have data charters. And think of a data charter as um, like a constitution for your data. It can be a one-page document, and I'll walk through what that can look like. But it's just basically putting down, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. Here's who's responsible for it. And um, a lot of companies don't have it, and it's not necessarily needed for a lot of companies. I think it's a good exercise, and I don't think it hurts people to necessarily not have one. But if you're in a situation where you're feeling our data is not ready to use, our data is a mess, I don't feel like we're ready for AI, having a data charter could help you. So I would say, what are the things that I would put in a data charter, and what would that look like? So first thing can be really simple, just like a vision purpose statement, something to say, this is why data matters to the organization. This is the role it's going to play in our digital transformation, or whatever you want to say, right? And it can be a little floofy, but it's, we want to use data to do what, right? We think about data in this way, and we want to protect people's security and blah, 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 whatever that is. Like, just write it down. Doesn't have to be much, and it's probably the least important aspect of it, but it's sort of that first like brick to lay down and just kind of ground the document. And then next thing I would say is you want to talk about your scope. What is the scope of the data that you're considering? Your product data, your customer data, your marketing data, operational data, first party, second party, third party. What are we talking about? What data is being covered? What teams and systems are involved? Departments are being involved with this data. We have our product team over here and they have this data. We have our marketing team over here and they have this data. We have our finance team over here and they have this data. Whatever that is, this is our data. Define, this is the data that is in the scope of what we're considering, right? Next thing, I would say roles and responsibilities, right? So who is owning and stewarding and using this data, right? Who is accountable for it, right? I'll have somewhere later in my document talk about having a RACI, but really just saying, here's who's responsible for this data. Here's who's owning each piece of this data is important, so you can go back and know that when that's time. I think you can have, potentially it could be part of the vision statement, but principles relating to this, like, we want accurate data, we want transparent data, we want privacy respected, we want ethical use of our data. Like, whatever those things are, you want to have like sort of principles with that. Maybe have that with your, right after your vision statement, your mission statement for your data. And then, so once you have, this is what we want to do with our data. This is our data. This is who owns that data. Then you start moving into more of like the governance framework of it. Like, what are the processes for managing data quality, access to data? Who manages getting access? Does anyone get access? You give access to everybody. Who controls that, right? Who manages that? Things about like metadata, life cycle. Do you have policies that you have for? Do you have a privacy policy? Do you have some sort of security policies, data retention, data deletion? Do you have policies? You can link to those policies if those are separate documents. And then next, I would make sure that you talk about compliance and ethics in it, right? So how are you dealing with GDPR, CCPA, any kind of relevant other guide, HIPAA, whatever you have, like what are your guidelines around any kind of like laws, ethical guidelines for AI, machine learning, anything like that. And then I would say, you want to have some sort of like review process where you say, this is our charter. We're going to review it at whatever, how are we reviewing it? We're going to have a data monthly data quality meeting or an annual thing, and we're going to review our charter annually to make sure it's up, and you set that up. It's sounds simple, and for other people it might sound like a waste of time, and for some people it might be a waste of time. You're a small team, you know what everything is, you don't need one, right? But if you're in a bigger team, and you're feeling like we are not together and we need to figure out how we can have our data come together and have a good data foundation, then this is a good process. It's a good thing for you to work through to get you started towards understanding what do you have, who's owning it, what do we need to do, what's our point, before you even move on to some of the later steps about talking about using the actual data. Just get this done. It can unite people around a vision. Technically, it definitely prevents confusion about who owns what data, as long as everyone's aligned with it, and it can help you get towards good, consistent data quality, trustworthy analytics. It can support compliance for like regulatory compliance and risk management. Even just having this document and saying that you care about this stuff, that can be evidence if you're doing some sort of certification around your privacy. And it can, if you don't have a culture, like a data culture that's built in accountability and built towards value creation, this can help you move towards that. So that's why I have it a second. Not for everybody, but it definitely, if you are looking to get your data moving, have a good data foundations, and have that data readiness where you're ready to go and start using your data, applying automation and AI. It's definitely something that I would recommend to folks.